Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I'm George. We're all George. In this video, I want to show you guys what's going on with Bitcoin, what Elon just said about our government, a little bit about inflation, and something about Bitcoin and how we will never, ever see this again. First of all, Bitcoin today is doing pretty well, 28,400. It did try to break that 28,600 once again. That is a tough cookie to crack. That is a major resistance that Bitcoin has not been able to hold above, but is just a matter of time. And once we break through this, 30,000 will be right around the corner. Now, there are many things going on right now that could definitely drive this higher, even as soon as this weekend. First, we did get some inflation data this morning, PCE, and inflation did go down slightly. This is confusing. It says rose, but really it's down month to month. But overall, inflation is still very high. But this is in line with the CPI report that came out just a few weeks ago. So overall, inflation seems to be slowing down, but it's still very elevated. But here's the thing. Why do we have inflation? People still don't understand why we have inflation. That's why Elon even chimed in today. This tweet was actually in response to how the US is losing its reserve currency status, and I made a video about that yesterday, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it today. But look at this. Combined with excess government spending, which forces other countries to absorb a significant amount of our inflation, right? Bottom line is this: inflation doesn't just affect Americans. It also affects other countries that are using the USD or holding large amounts of USD. Think about it. Other countries, they do their trade right now where they buy oil with USD and they're holding a large amount. And all of that is also dissipating because of inflation. So Elon even chimes in today, and I totally agree with him. Overall, inflation is a tough cookie to crack. It's always been, ever since the Federal Reserve was created back into like 1912 or 1913. Inflation has been an issue, and ever since the gold standard was removed, a bigger issue. So this is why Bitcoin was created, and this is why we need to all load up more on Bitcoin to kind of get away from our financial system, get away from inflation. And you know what? We now have another reason to. Well, I covered this. The US standard, the USD reserve standard, that may be going away. Yesterday I covered about how Brazil and China now, they are planning on ditching the dollar. They no longer want to do they don't want to use the dollar for their trades. And look at this. China's already Brazil's top trading partner since 2009. It's no longer the US, right? So it makes sense that China can kind of force the countries that they trade with to do this. And of course, China has a big relationship right now with Russia, or they always had it. But you know that trade going on right now is also not with USD, right? And then I saw this. Even Kenya today announced that they will be buying oil with their own currency and not USD. So it's starting to happen. It's a little worrisome. Now, yesterday's video, I did see a lot of comments. Some people just don't believe it. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're spreading FUD. The USD standard, will never be replaced as with something else on the world stage. I think we're starting to see that. I don't think people realize that after about 100 plus years, which it has been, the reserve currency of the world usually changes. If you go down, like yesterday's video, if you missed it, I highly recommend you guys to watch it, because I have a lot of charts, a lot of other supporting data for this. But there was one chart that showed, basically before the US dollar, it was the British pound, and before that it was something else and something else and something else, and they changed like every 80 to 100 years. Doesn't mean the country collapses, doesn't mean that the currency collapses, but they just stopped being the reserve currency. And we're starting to see that happen right in front of our eyes. Another reason why to be in Bitcoin. And in Africa right now, right, there's more people with mobile phones than bank accounts. So what better place to really adopt Bitcoin and crypto overall? We're hearing a lot about that, and it's starting to happen already. And again, these people, now they are their own bank with their own self-custody wallet. They control Bitcoin, they control Ethereum, they could be controlling Cardano, right? But you know what they're not controlling? USD. They are their own bank, and their currency is crypto, not USD. So as more and more people adopt Bitcoin and adopt crypto and become their own bank around the world, that's also less reason for them to be using and embracing and holding USD. So think about that. And of course, this is the reason why right now Bitcoin is so exciting. The volume is exploding. In fact, today is the last day of the month. So the options volume, futures volume are both rising up quickly. And according to this, all-time high. Imagine that. Bitcoin only being at 28,000, not 69,000, yet the volume on CME futures and options are already back to all-time high. Think about how much liquidity, how much interest there is right now. And imagine when Bitcoin is at 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, right? Where will the volume be then? I mean, this is not a time to be sleeping on Bitcoin. It really isn't. And in terms of adoption, this is where we are. I mean, adoption is nowhere close to the top, right? This is the S curve. This is like the adoption S curve, and you see this with everything: mobile phones, internet, whatever invention that has come out, right? There's always an adoption curve. And according to this, Bitcoin is somewhere in the middle, but we're nowhere near the top or the peak. I would argue Bitcoin's adoption curve is like more like here. I know this is like correlated with the price, but really if we were looking at Bitcoin's adoption S curve, I would say Bitcoin would be like right here. We're nowhere close in the middle. We're just getting started from a price perspective, and also from a utility perspective, and just from a world currency perspective. Can one day Bitcoin be the world reserve currency? I certainly think so. I certainly think it has what it takes to be the world's reserve currency, because it's non-sovereign, no one can control it, and it can't be inflated, and it's just a perfect system, perfect network, perfect currency. It just doesn't get any better than Bitcoin. And then of course you still have a lot of signals like this, or a lot of charts, a lot of metrics, right, that show that we are breaking up. This one is showing that we are breaking up from the 350 DMA, right? And every time we have done this, this is basically the signal that the bull run is about to start, and that the bear cycle has ended. It has happened only 2 times before. Now it's the 3rd time, right? And we have clearly broken up above the 350 DMA. So that is looking good. And finally, this Bitcoin has never made a new low after the monthly RSI crossed 50. Okay? Take a look at that. So at the beginning, I said Bitcoin will never, ever, ever do this again. I'm referring to making a new low. So I think some people are still expecting Bitcoin to fall to 13,000, 12,000, 11,000. I don't think Bitcoin is heading down. It's not going to form a new low. It's only gaining strength at this point based on all the reasons I've said, due to distrust in banks and governments, distrust or dislike of inflation. Right now, worries about the USD not being the world's reserve currency, and plus all the charts and metrics and fundamentals that are showing that Bitcoin is not only strong but ready to rally, right? I just don't see, outside of some kind of natural disaster or some major macro collapse, that Bitcoin will hit a new low. I just don't see it. And according to this, every time Bitcoin goes above the 50 monthly RSI, look at it, Bitcoin shoots up, and we have just started barely right here.